Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Nick Reed, Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. Easiest way, in all actuality, is just to have that app downloaded. And then you can send us messages anytime you'd like to with a great deal of ease. Also, you can stream the show and you can listen to the podcast and all that sort of fantastic stuff. I want to thank Tom Martz filling in on Friday, Darren Chappell filling in on Monday as we had the Great Escape, and of course everyone who went along on the trip. And I will say that you were greatly missed.
I know. I received so many messages, but it sounded like you guys had
just
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. It was a new resort, new for us, one we had not been to, and people seemed to really like it. I liked it as well. I was a little apprehensive because it seemed, I don't know, more hotel-ish than some that we've been to in the past. Instead of sort of the sprawling out, it was more up, but it worked. I don't know. It was really nice. Everyone seemed to really like it.
That's good.
So a huge thank you to everyone who went along, and for those of you who listened as we were broadcasting live there, and it was a great time. And we don't know a next location or exactly when it's going to be, but there will be one, so fear not, because I know that's a question that we always get every time we take one of the trips from those people who go and then those who had to miss out the last time around. Of course, the continuing developments taking place, and it's amazing that this schizophrenic approach that we see when it comes to Donald Trump, and we watch and we listen to The End of Democracy as we know it, of course, how it is just going to be the end. I mean, you have everyone from Oprah Winfrey saying that women in particular probably never be able to vote again, to members of Congress, Democrats claiming that they may be round up and put in concentration camps or internment camps, that it's over. Then, of course, to Joe Biden, who was leading that charge, gladly welcoming Donald Trump in, big smile on his face, everything's wonderful. And then, though, the reaction to these cabinet picks. The media portrays this as if this is just beyond their comprehension. Now, mind you, these are the same people who claimed that they believed that Donald Trump was going to execute political opposition. The same media and the same Democrat Party that claimed they believed he was Hitler and was going to use the military against people who disagree with him. With that mindset, you would think that Trump picking Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General wouldn't be that big of a deal in the context of what they said that they believed was going to happen. You would think that, tapping Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr., these individuals that Trump is picking to surround himself with to help him execute his plans and policies for the United States would be hardly any deal at all. You think they'd be like, well, if this is the worst that's going to happen, considering that we thought, Hitler 2.0 was going to get elected. But they act like, well, this is almost, their reaction demonstrates, worse than if Hitler was taking over. The continued display of shock and disbelief and wow, I just cannot believe this. This can't be happening. It already obviously wore thin, hence Donald Trump getting elected president of the United States. And arguably, I believe, for many people, worked against the media's efforts to get Kamala Harris elected president. But it's just like, would you stop with the fainting couch already? I mean, this is the problem with pretending that you believe the sky is falling, that it just gets very tiresome and people stop listening to you, which has become very clear and clear to everyone except for those who continue to wear out that fainting couch. Trump, this appearance that he made Madison Square Garden for this UFC fight, I mean, just, I'm telling you, on full display, the divide between average everyday Americans and the elites. CNN almost, again, getting out the fainting couch. Oh, it's just like it was some sort of Roman situation with a gladiator fight, and here you've got the emperor coming in, and what's funny is they see all of this as something that's very disturbing. Now, when Obama would show up somewhere, and they would actually create these this imagery of some sort of coliseum. It was wonderful. It was inspiring. It was, look how wonderful it is that you have Americans coming together, so excited. When was the last time we've seen Americans so excited? Anytime there was in the early Obama days, that sort of welcome. But when it's Donald Trump, it's scary, it's frightening, it's sending a message to people who disagree with him. These folks are demonstrating that some of them, I really think, are incapable of wearing themselves out. At some point, I think Bill Maher has gotten to that point, and some of these others, where they wore themselves out with all of the screaming and running around with hysterics. And I think you get these people like Bill Maher, and there are some other Democrat members of Congress who have also expressed this perspective. It's like they're just done. Like, you know what? It isn't the worst thing in the world. We're going to get through this. And, there are others that it is much more of a marathon times 10. And they seemingly are in no way, shape, or form ready to wear themselves out. Anyway, we've got some audio of the return to Madison Square Garden. Also, the winner of the fight and his words after were in which he thanked Donald Trump. Increasingly, we're seeing people in athletics, whether it's NFL games or these UFC fights, do the little Donald Trump dance. I mean, it's so. When Trump first did the dance deal, where he just does the arm, part of the reason that is becoming a thing is because Donald Trump, when it comes to that sort of thing, doesn't take himself too seriously. He's very comfortable with who he is, and Trump supporters have a good sense of humor. I don't think there's anyone in the world that could do a goofy dance like Donald Trump does and have it be turned into a celebratory display of admiration. Yet that is the great world of, some may say, joy that Donald Trump has created. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see rain throughout the day and into the evening hours with a high near 67. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 62. And on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 51.
Amazing Christmas concert performance with the incredibly talented Chris Tomlin live at Evangel University Spence Chapel. That is coming up Wednesday, December 11th. If that is something that you would like to win, possibly some tickets, then you can go to ksgf.com, register there. And we still have time left on Show Us Your Best Shot. There are a number of picks already up, and this, once again, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. Credible prize pack that he, as a hunter, put together himself. He did this last year as well, and it was ever so popular. You just go to ksgf.com. You can submit your photos of, it could be this season, past seasons, and then one of you will be randomly chosen. It's not based off the pick, so you don't have to worry about that. And then if you win, you're going to get that incredible prize pack, hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, and you can get, it goes through the details on all that at ksgf.com as well. Regarding Donald Trump, so many songs were written about Trump and MAGA that he could have his own genre. We also have the Trump pump. Meanwhile, the Dems are doing the Biden shuffle. I did just think about the imagery and the difference between not only the welcome that Donald Trump received at Madison Square Garden for this UFC fight, but just the whole presentation of it, and how laughable the media continues to make itself during the election, trying to post the acknowledgement that they were covering for Biden, then shifted to, oh, well, Donald Trump is no better off. And you just watch the way that this guy is and behaves, and it just defies everything. I mean, I don't know that the media can or has the ability to discredit itself any more than it already has. This is Trump during that fight, and there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not he would attend. I think it was brought up on Joe Rogan's show prior to the election, and Trump saying, well, if the election didn't go his way, he might be very sad and not show up. And there was a bit of joking about it. But, of course, there was a great deal of speculation that perhaps he would, and that he did.
The people at home. Here, there's the sound in this room. It's so loud in here. It is so loud. It's always loud when he comes in with his city wrong. Now there's the president again. Yes. Oh my God. So Donald Trump making his way through the UFC, which he absolutely loves, and doing so with some sort of victory lap. After regaining the presidency earlier this month in a fashion with an election fallout of the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Congratulations.
Can you? I sometimes imagine the emotional reaction that the left has when they see an entrance. Like, it has to drive them nuts.
They're livid.
It has to just infuriate them, and I think, unfortunately, some have been so brainwashed into fearing Trump that sort of thing, scares them. In fact, CNN panelists, they referenced it looking like ancient Rome. So it's like it was some sort of gladiator scene in which they were going to bring Christians out in order to try to fight off lions, and there would be the thumbs up and thumbs down, and there would be this carnage that was going to occur, all for the entertainment of the great emperor Donald Trump. And they just see this stuff, but again, it's never about the scene itself or the issue itself. With the left, it's just always about the person. If there's that sort of reception for Kamala Harris, which, of course, they tried to recreate by having these concerts or lying to fans or supporters or would-be supporters and falsely claiming that there was going to be a concert, or when they would really whip up a frenzy over Obama in that historic election. It was a wonderful thing to see. It was so exciting. It was joyful. It was electric. You remember just this summer during the Democratic National Convention, that was a term that they used, that it was electric. You could feel the electricity, and Kamala was here to save everyone. It's wonderful. But if the same level or an even greater level of actual genuine joy and happiness is expressed for Donald Trump, it's scary. It's like some sort of Nazi rally. It is something that is horrific, and it is just like ancient Rome, the times that we have been taken back to. Then you had, during that whole scene, John Bones Jones, which was the one of the fighters, he does. Is Trump Pump? Is that someone texted that in? Is that the actual name of this now, or did this person? I haven't heard that, but it sounds perfect.
Said it was the Trump dance, but yeah,
Trump
Pump.
Yeah,
I like that.
because that's really all he's doing is he's pumping those arms. The great thing about it is anyone can do it.
That's right.
I mean, it transcends race. It transcends talent. It transcends any sort of rhythmic disability that some people may have, and yet it's becoming ever so popular, and all you got to do is just pump those two fists. But John Jones, he did that before the fight, and then he kind of pointed over to Trump as, hey, this is a tribute. Then after he won, he had this to say.
I want to say a big thank you to President Donald Trump for being here tonight. Hey, what do you guys think about President Donald Trump? Check it out. Hey. Proud to be a great American champion. I'm proud to be a Christian American champion.
And again, that is a display of unity. You have all of these people there, different backgrounds. Now, in the minds of the left, of course, it's probably a bunch of white right-wing Christian extremists, because this is what they've been told. But you have different races, you have different sexual orientations, you have different, and what is on display in an arena like that is what really has in the past, and perhaps is once again separating us from the rest of the world, and that is we weren't in these little factions that were constantly opposed to one another, but that regardless of those backgrounds, USA, we're Americans, and we can all come together and enjoy events together, enjoy cultural events together, being with one another, not concerning ourselves with what's the political persuasion of the person sitting next to me, what is the religious affiliation of the person sitting next to me. And it's so unfortunate that there's a segment of the population that has robbed itself of this. In fact, I've got the story. If I have time, I'll play it later, and it's from the Los Angeles affiliate it's the Fox affiliate out in Los Angeles. And it's all about this lesbian who was a Hillary Clinton campaign person, a Trump supporter, but she voted for Donald Trump because she's also Jewish, and the whole anti-Semitism thing was a little bothersome to her. And the whole story is about how her community has abandoned her, that she's been shunned out of the LGBT community. Her friends are cutting her off. And you hear Democrats advising people to do this to their own family members, to cut them off, to no longer have them in your lives. And with you think about how the left has tried to characterize Trump supporters as cult members. That's how the cult behaves. You cut people out of your life that does not conform to your belief system. If there is somebody that is a danger to our beliefs, then you must cut them off. You must not talk with them. The family members that are Trump supporters, in fact, I was having this conversation last week with a couple whose adult son had cut them off after the election because they're Trump supporters. That is a common situation that family members deal with when their other family members get sucked into cults. Their family cuts them off because they are a distraction from what is good, from the ultimate goal, because they are bad people. They are part of the problem. You don't have that with Trump supporters. The vast majority of Trump supporters genuinely would just love, I mean, I'll speak for myself here, for people who hate Donald Trump and loved Kamala Harris to, okay, sure, you're upset because any human being's going to be upset when their side loses, but you then are able to go about your life. You don't let it affect your friendships. You don't let it affect your mental health. You don't let it divide your family. That's how it used to be. And it's just so painfully obvious that there is this projection occurring as the left creates this echo chamber in which they claim that Donald Trump supporters are like a cult, yet they're the ones who tell the anti-Trump people to cut themselves off from their family, to cut their friends out of their lives if they don't believe the same things that they do. Now, you tell me what's a cult. Coming up, Democrats in Pennsylvania, as you know, perhaps you don't know, have admitted that they are counting illegal ballots. This is something, once upon a time, they did as quietly as possible when there was a close race. This is regarding the Pennsylvania Casey McCormick Senate race. And the Democrats have gotten to the point now where they just openly acknowledge, yeah, we're counting votes illegally. Openly. Republicans have a response, particularly Senator Mike Lee, and I want to talk about that coming up because this is what Republicans need to start doing, and that is saying, you know what, if you keep doing this and you somehow manage to all of a sudden go, oh, wait a minute, with enough illegal votes counted, our guy is the winner, that Republicans, if they can rally, will just refuse to seat him because he's illegitimate. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. What are we looking at? Okay, we got a traffic update. We are going to talk with Congressman Burleson today. It'll be an hour earlier than we usually do, I think, because of flight scheduling or something. I was very worried about changing that on the calendar because I was in a different time zone when I did it. And sometimes, have you ever done it where you, but then when you switch time, then it switches it, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
And when I went on vacation, I switched something around, and then I came back, and you were like, "Now, did you mean to put it at this
Yeah.
time or Mountain Time?" I don't remember what it was,
Well,
but
I made the switch on the calendar when I got a communication about moving him up, but then I made a point when I got back to double check it, and it seemed to be in the right place. So
it
I don't
is
know. So
7:15.
very confusing to me. So that'll be coming up here in just under an hour, and we'll get his thoughts on some of these cabinet picks, the media's reaction, of course. But coming up, the Democrats in Pennsylvania. What's interesting about this, and it's great the Republicans are standing up to it, but what is happening in Pennsylvania is what was happening in numerous states during the last election, in which the Trump people, this is why the Trump camp was arguing Mike Pence should have sent some of the electors back to the states and the state legislatures. Now, it wasn't in the context of a U.S. Senate campaign, but what you had were Democrats in charge that said, we know that the law says these ballots cannot be counted, but we're going to count them anyway. And that's where the Trump attorneys were arguing because of that. Pence needs to send this stuff back to the state legislatures because there were votes counted that, according to those individual state legislatures, had said are illegal. And that's what's going on for the U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania. Well, now Republicans are finally standing up, and they're saying, no, this cannot happen, and better late than never. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. This is good. Hope they stick to their guns. Although with the Romneys of the world and the Murkowskis and the Susan Collins, I almost feel as if they're just waiting for a chance to betray the American people and to stab Donald Trump in the back and side with Democrats on something like this. So that next, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see rain throughout the day and into the evening with a high near 67. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 62, and on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 51.
Democrats in blue Pennsylvania counties have admitted to counting illegal ballots in the Senate race that is headed for a recount. Now, the subsequent story to this is Senator Mike Lee saying that this refusal of the Democrats, this is what we'd call election denial. They are refusing to accept the outcome of the election. And Mike Lee is arguing the Senate could just refuse to seat him if he continues to rely on illegal votes. But we'll get to that coming up. Republican candidate Dave McCormick was projected as the winner by the AP, but is only leading Democrat incumbent Bob Casey by 29,000 votes. Pennsylvania Secretary of the Commonwealth Al Schmidt told reporters that the results of the state's Senate count, estimated to cost $1 million, will be publicly released November 27th. Schmidt said that the recount was triggered because the unofficial results show the two candidates within a 0.5 percentage point margin, according to CBS News. The state Supreme Court ruled before the election that mail-in ballots that do not have proper dates or signatures would not be included in the official results. So what happened was the Democrats, of course, they wanted to be able, they went to court to get permission to count votes that should not be legally counted. And the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot do that. According to Fox News, officials in Bucks County and Montgomery County have given a big middle finger to the Supreme Court, saying we're going to do whatever we want to do. Bucks County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marseglia said, quote, "I think we all know that precedent by a count doesn't matter anymore in this country." Now, this is her rationalization. Quote, "People violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention. There's nothing more important than counting votes," she added, failing to distinguish between legal votes and illegal votes. So she's saying we do this all the time. This is a political party that is trying to imprison, or has been trying to imprison, Donald Trump over the idea of fake electors. And here, their argument, this one particular Democrat county commissioner, is we break the law all the time. This is just what we're going to do. If that's what we have to do to get the court's attention. And by the way, the court's attention was already obtained when the Democrats went to the court in order to get the court to allow them to illegally count ballots. And the court said no. So attention has been paid. It's just when the Democrats, as usual, don't get what they want, they just violate the law anyway. It's just like Biden when it came to the Supreme Court and their finding, their opinion, that he could not just dictate that Americans take on the debt that other Americans had voluntarily taken out in order to pay for college. And Biden's like, still watch me. So what? What do I care what you say? This is the trickle-down immorality and dishonesty of the Democrat Party, to where, in this particular instance, it has trickled down to Bucks County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marseglia, who's like, people violate the laws anytime we want. So what? The Montgomery County Democratic Board Chair Neil Makia voted to have the ballots counted so voters would not be disenfranchised. The Republican National Committee has filed 4 lawsuits challenging the county's decision to count undated ballots, and said they will fight for as long as necessary to uphold the Supreme Court's decision. Quote, "Let's be clear about what's happening here. Democrats in Pennsylvania are brazenly trying to break the law by attempting to count illegal ballots." They're not trying, they're succeeding. He said they are doing this because they want to steal a Senate seat, according to RCN Chairman Michael Whatley. Well, and of course that's the case. There's no other way around it. Now, what their ultimate goal here is to close the gap. And that is to take ballots that are not legal because they do not have the proper dates or signatures. And if they can close that gap and say, oh, look, Casey actually won re-election, once you count these votes, they will then see Republicans as being on the defensive because their argument will be, if you throw out these votes, you're disenfranchising voters. You're trying, then they'll reverse it. You're trying to overthrow the election. They will refer to it as technicalities or loopholes that are preventing the real winner from emerging. Because this is how they operate. And the reason they operate this way is because it's worked in the past. It's almost laughable that the Republican National Committee has filed 4 lawsuits challenging this because the courts have already decided it. And so, okay, what if you get 4 new courts that say, yeah, you can't do this? The Democrats have already in Pennsylvania, anyhow, in this particular instance, said, we don't care what you say. We're just going to keep counting votes that are not meant to be counted, that are illegal. What is the point in any state legislature crafting laws if you have a political party that says, yeah, we don't like those, so we're going to ignore them? We're just going to make up the random rules. We have all these votes over here that do not qualify, but we're going to count them because we want to. What other votes do they get to count? By their approach, if after counting all of these illegal ballots, they still are not able to close this gap, then why can't they simply say, we're extending the voting deadline and allowing Democrats, or, well, heck, they could just say Democrats. We're just going to go ahead and have another week of voting. Well, they can't do that because the law says they can't. Well, the law also says that they can't count these ballots, but they're doing it anyway. And they're not disputing that it's against the law. They're embracing that it's against the law. It is if we go back to it, listen, I'm not wanting to relitigate the 2020 election just because it was stolen, but it should be pointed out. What is occurring in Pennsylvania is what occurred in a number of states in 2020 that prompted the Trump camp to encourage Mike Pence not to accept electors from those specific states and instead send them back, because what you had was a handful of states in which you had Democrats that were saying, yes, we know what the law says here, but we're going to count these votes anyway. The media likes to dismiss the Trump claims as if it was all about, stuffing a ballot box. That wasn't what the complaint was regarding the situation with, January 6th and Mike Pence. The argument was you have a number of states here in which a Secretary of State, or you would have these Democrat county officials that were openly not denying that they were counting illegal votes. And because of that, and that Mike Pence, the argument was, constitutionally had the authority to kick it back to the states and say to the state legislatures, hey, these results are in violation of your law, so you need to figure something out here. That was the Trump argument. And while this is not a presidential race that this instance is reoccurring, I find it a little interesting that Republicans find themselves in a position to where what is happening to a newly elected Republican U.S. senator is the exact same thing that happened to Trump in a number of these states. And I guarantee you that a number of these Republicans that are going to have no problem whatsoever calling out Democrats for it this time were some of the same Republicans that were accusing Donald Trump of being a conspiracy theorist, of lying to his supporters, which caused the insurrection. They had no trouble jumping on that bandwagon. But now that it's happening to the Republicans in the U.S. Senate, all of a sudden they have a problem with it. Senator Mike Lee taking aim at Bob Casey over the Pennsylvania Democrats' refusal to concede the election, arguing that the Senate could refuse to seat him if he continues to rely on illegal votes. His argument next. I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs, especially as we make our way into winter. Those cold temperatures, trying to get that battery to turn over. Maybe your belts and hoses are just a little bit old and brittle and cracking. Those cold temperatures, they have an effect just like they do on your body. And what a bad time for that stuff to go out. You ever tried in the cold and you're under your hood and you're working on stuff, or you're trying to change a tire, you just can't feel your fingers. It's horrible. It's awful. And some of that stuff is unforeseeable. And you may think to yourself, well, I'm not going to find myself in that position because I'll just call someone to come get me. Oh, aren't they going to love that? It's just easier to have preventative maintenance and to prep your vehicle for winter. A1 Custom Car Care. You can do it with those folks. They're good folks, good people. Good people. Senator Mike Lee, Republican Utah, took aim at Senator Bob Casey, the election denier, over the Pennsylvania Democrats' refusal to concede the election. Isn't that what they said, like Trump, this is what, and he might even do this time around. Remember this was one of the talking points of the media, the Democrats, is that if Donald Trump does get reelected, that this is why we won't ever have election again, because he just won't leave office. I wish every time, it's easy to sit back and say, here's what I would do. But every time that this issue comes up, I would note, this is what we were told that Trump is going to do. He'll refuse to leave office. So Senator Bob Casey doing the same thing. Oh, well, it's different when they do it, see. I need to make sure that the vote is accurate. Oh, sounds like a conspiracy theory to me. Now, Mike Lee argues the Senate can refuse to seat him if he continues to rely on illegal votes. Quote, if Bob Casey doesn't concede, Pennsylvania keeps counting illegal votes, and Casey relies on those votes to claim victory, the Senate could refuse to seat him. He cites Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1, which states that each, quote, each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members. So the House of Representatives has the ability and the authority and the obligation on their side, as does the Senate, to be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications. Now, the reason that that wording is significant and important, this isn't after the effect. This isn't referencing that that they are the ones that draft the rules ahead of time, specifically, but saying that they're the judge of the election and the returns. This is pretty straightforward stuff. The comment comes as Pennsylvania's Senate race will be decided by a recount after McCormick won the election by 26,000 votes, or within the 1 percentage point margin that triggers an automatic recount under Pennsylvania law. Casey has refused to concede the election despite the contest being called by multiple outlets, instead insisting that a winner be declared after all votes are counted. Questions remain about the votes Casey is trying to count after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that ballots that lack required signatures and dates are not allowed to be included in official results, a ruling that's being ignored by Democrat officials who've openly, again, said people break the law all the time. We're going to do the same. So I guess it is somewhat refreshing that Democrats have gotten to the point of being honest about their dishonesty. They used to claim, or they would count votes quietly that were not supposed to be counted. They would, if they got caught, give an oopsie daisies. Or they would put plywood over the windows so election observers could not see what was going on. Now you have them in Pennsylvania just flat out saying people break the law all the time. Why should we be any different? Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Did you see Joe and Mika from Morning? Joe went to Mar-a-Lago to meet Trump and wants to have a reset with him and start talking with him. Actually, I did see that. I don't know the details of it. I've seen a couple of postings regarding it. And that by itself, you look at this. And I've got audio later, Charlemagne the God, and he's like, what happened to... He was talking about Biden having Trump into the White House, and they're sitting around talking about, well, what happened to the end of democracy as we know it? Like, at what point are you going to realize that you've been lied to? It's like that. There's this block, this force field over the brains of these people on the left, where that they just can't figure this out. That you were lied to. What about this do you really not get? Is it, maybe it's self-preservation? It is a desire to not acknowledge that you were duped by something that frankly defied common sense anyhow. It's not as if a reasonable person would have fallen into this belief. But here you have these MSNBC folks go to Trump. You got Mika and Joe, according to the reports, that Scarborough, that went to meet with Trump. Well, number one, so they're meeting with Hitler? But number two, would Hitler meet with them? Obviously not. Here's a guy, Trump, I mean, he doesn't have to do this at all. It's not like he's going to really win them over, but it just goes to show again how dishonest these people are. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. The Today's Show has a little headline: Trump confirms mass deportation plans. They make it sound like it was just a rumor or something that they'd been reporting on, and he's for the very first, he confirmed that this wasn't really anything that was a surprise, or it shouldn't be. This is part of what he campaigned on. We know that he was campaigning on it because Democrats were, including Kamala Harris, talking about what is that going to look like? And the media went out and polled Americans how they felt about mass deportation. And for the most part, the polling showed that most Americans supported mass deportation. Now, they may have supported it in a certain order, those who are criminals first, and then this and that. In fact, one of the it escapes me, but there was a question posed to one of the individuals going to be involved in this about, well, I just loved this. I wish I had the audio. Sorry, I don't. But how are you going to not separate families? And he said, well, deport them together. What do you mean? I mean, this is pretty simple. The whole family will be deported together. There will be no separation of families that way. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. That's a good way to make sure that you do not separate families, is you just deport them together. And so, of course, there's going to be a particular order to this, and this plan is something that has been laid out to a large degree for some time. This isn't just something that Trump said, and now, well, let's figure out how to do it. Operationally speaking, there is a plan to some degree. Now, of course, that may change, and there may be, I'm sure that you're going to have some that try to stop it from happening. But the media reporting on it like it's just been a rumor. Well, it's been confirmed that this is actually true. Really? That's why millions of Americans voted for Donald Trump, or at least one of the reasons they voted for him. Did you see the walk-in at the USC fight with Trump?
Yeah, I did.
Did you notice who was in there that was about a foot shorter than everyone else? Speaker Johnson was in the
Yes, I
middle
saw
of it.
him.
Now,
I was thinking about everybody that was there. It was the whole entourage.
It was, which is just, I love it. I love it. And maybe I should. It is an emotional reaction, but it's just, I love seeing it. And if you were to play which one of these things does not belong, there you have them. You have these alpha male guys that are all over 6 foot, and they just have this swagger with them. And then Mike Johnson's in the middle of them. He's a foot shorter than all of them. When they first come out into the arena, he does this sort of double finger thing, like, hey,
Yeah, I
to
saw
someone.
that.
And, oh my gosh, this guy is hanging out with the cool kids for the very first time. And on one hand, I think to myself, Johnson has in no way, shape, or form demonstrated what MAGA Americans want as a speaker. And I'm not talking about lack of support for Donald Trump, but he made a number of different promises, including won't do continuing resolutions, including won't give any money to Ukraine without having a secure border. There were a number of things that he said he would do, and he just lied. And as it was noted, Congressman Burleson at times saying it might as well have Pelosi in there or Joaquin Jeffries, because he is turning the keys over to the Democrats. He is giving them what they want. And so when I see him there in that entourage, I think, you little puke. You are such a little puke. The only reason that I am able to sever that reaction is because I know why he's there. He's there because Trump wants him there. And Trump wants him there because Trump is crafting a relationship in which Mike Johnson as Speaker is going to be much more accommodating in getting things done for Donald Trump. This is why Donald Trump has all of the relationships that he has in the context of work. This is why he went to visit Kim Jong-un and to smile and shake his hand. And I'm not comparing Kim Jong-un to Mike Johnson, but I'm comparing Trump's approach to people. He knows how to get things done. And so when I see Mike Johnson and the way that he was just, in my opinion, completely dishonest in order to get that speakership position, and he's there, look at me, I'm with Trump, and just like, you really kind of disgust me. I know why Trump's doing it. I know why he's there, and it's so Trump can get this stuff done, and then I'm okay with it. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see rain throughout the day and into the evening hours with a high near 67. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 62, and on Wednesday sunny with a high near 51.
Sarah found that audio. This was...
Was this the correct one?
Yeah, this was exactly what I was thinking about. This is what Americans want. I'm going to play this before we get to traffic. The straightforward, cut out the BS. Tom Homan on 60 Minutes regarding the issue of illegal immigration and deportation.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
And it isn't because the situation is funny, but it's just such an obvious answer. And it is in total defiance of how government normally works, where things are that become this Rube Goldberg situation in which nothing is ever fixed. Everything gets worse. And it's just straight up. I mean, when she's talking about it might cost $83 billion. I'm sorry, does Zelensky get to spend that in a weekend? Oh, all of a sudden we're worried about spending money? And then, well, is there a way to deport families without separate? Yeah, you just deport them together. I mean, it's like saying, is there a way for my family to get to Disney World without being separated? Yeah, you get on the same flight. You stay in the same hotel and you rent the same car. Traffic update. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. If you have needs for buying a home, selling a home, or just deciding whether or not it is the right time, is your home ready? One of the recommendations I make, and it's based off of what she has also said, is that, if you are going to put your house on the market or thinking about it, let her do a walkthrough with you before you update anything or replace anything that you think is necessary in order to sell your home. Marketplaces change. What is significant and important to selling a home in this market may be different than it is in other markets. And so you don't want to make changes that end up being unnecessary and then maybe even find out, oh, but this is something you need to do. And you hadn't thought of that. You hadn't budgeted for that. And now you spent some of your money updating something that's not going to help you any. So make that part of that decision-making process. And before you even replace a light switch, if you're thinking about selling your home, contact Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. You can find her at ksgf.com under Nick's endorsements. Congressman Burleson is joining us this morning, and I was last week we were on the Great Escape, so I guess we haven't spoken to you since the election. Clearly happy with the outcome, I'm sure. The media, I love how Hitler used to be the worst thing in the world, but now apparently having Matt Gaetz as Attorney General is worse than that, because for people that acted like the country was coming to an end, you would think these appointments would be on the scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 2. But apparently this is the new worst thing ever. How do you what do you think about how things have played out thus far? Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Right. Well, and further on that point, one of the criticisms or complaints is that, well, all he's doing is appointing people who are going to agree with him and yes men. And I agree but disagree. I guess it depends on your definition of a yes man. I don't think Donald Trump, frankly, ever wants somebody that is just going to wait to be told exactly what to do. I think he does have very strong opinions, but I think he also believes in delegating. That's how you get things done. He's smart enough to know, I want people who get it, who understand my vision, where I'm coming from, and they are able to work off of that vision, not at every step text me to say, what do I do? What do I say? Because he just doesn't have time for that. But also, on the other hand, the way that they present it, it's almost as if they are claiming that these appointments are trying to create this narrative in which these appointments are supposed to be some sort of balance to him, as opposed to the fact that these are people who are supposed to carry out his duty. I mean, they are working for him. They are ultimately supposed to carry out what he says, and I think in their world they want people that are going to be defiant, like what they saw during the last administration, that will oftentimes come out, leak information. They will be anonymous sources in order for the media to be able to trash on Trump and try to overthrow his administration. But they are working for him after all.
Yeah, and I think that the Robert Kennedy Jr. appointment is a great example of what Trump is looking for, which is he's not looking for a clone of himself. He's
Right.
looking for someone that fundamentally is of the a belief and the willingness and the courage to take on the corruption and the swamp. And when it comes to Bobby Kennedy Jr., that holds very dear when it comes to all of the corruption in the National Institute for Health and the FDA and pharmaceutical industry, all of that. But what Trump has done, I think, smartly is say, this is your assignment, this is your role. He's even publicly said, I may have to rein him in a little bit, but this is where I want him to go. I'd rather have somebody that's a bulldog and aggressive in that way that I can rein in than somebody that I can't, you can't push a wet noodle, right?
Right.
So I think that the other thing to keep in mind is that he's smartly picking people and sticking them in a lane. So Robert Kennedy Jr., he's a huge environmental nut, but he's not being put in charge of the EPA. He's being put in charge of the thing that Trump wants to focus him on. And I think that's good.
We're talking with Congressman Burleson. Watching the media realign themselves with institutions that have long been presented as enemies is humorous. And you talk of RFK Jr. and one of the many complaints, I think he did a video regarding some of the dyes that are used, and he used Fruit Loops as an example that aren't used in Europe. And all of a sudden you have these outlets that are becoming defenders of these massive corporations that are using dyes and stuff and downplaying it like it's no big deal. And to watch a media that has long really seemingly not found a corporation they didn't think was evil and only there for profit at the expense of the consumer, all of a sudden downplaying that because the new enemy is anything Donald Trump. And it just demonstrates, I think, and further discredits them to the American people that they have no moral compass whatsoever.
No, I thought that there's a post on Twitter that's making the rounds. It's pretty popular. That's quoting a New York Times story, I think, about that very thing.
Yeah, it was a New York Times. Yeah,
where they're saying that Bobby Kennedy, espoused that in this particular breakfast cereal that in Europe there are, he literally said that they use these ingredients that are banned in Europe. They use them in America, but they use natural ingredients in Europe. And they said, in the article, they said something to the effect of, while he's wrong, or they said that he's wrong, that there are the same number of ingredients in the same breakfast cereal. But then later in the article, they go on to say, but yes, they are natural ingredients as opposed to yellow dye number 5 and all of these other things.
Well, and I've heard in an interview that was done with RFK Jr. in the past, and I hope he stays true to this, or Trump holds him to this. The question was posed: well, free market. How are you gonna have a free market system if you start banning this stuff? And he said, I don't think the government has to ban this stuff. He said, I think if we just clean up the level of dishonesty and corruption within the FDA and these governing institutions, and just give people the accurate information and leave it to them to make the decisions for themselves, that is going to be the answer to this.
What a novel idea.
I know, right? Isn't it crazy?
What a novel idea.
Very radical.
The free market. Yeah, the free market. And it's coming from the mouth of a person that was last year a Democrat, right? This just it is extremely refreshing to hear. And this is why I think we're holding the moral high ground on these topics, because, and I would just like, if the left is going to keep defending all of these big corporations who, that are putting these ingredients in, and let them keep doing it, because at the end of the day, I think Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s position is hard to defend. I think he's holding the moral high ground here.
Well, he is, and it's so clear that it has resonated with so many people. I have been pleasantly surprised at the number of conversations I see on social media about these things that many people didn't know what was going on. And I'm not one that, I'm not a throw in with all this corporation's evil or that one's this or that, but I just like that people are paying attention to things that are real. And yeah, and a lot of these are the moms, the suburban moms, that are for the very first time feeling as if government is actually potentially going to do something that is in a meaningful way beneficial. We're talking with Congressman Burleson.
Well, you're just probably like me. I want to know the truth.
Right, that's it.
I'm sick of being lied to. And, for years, my parents, for example, they tried to lose weight by eating fat-free foods, paying extra money to eat foods that are sugar-free or fat-free, only to find out that that's not exactly science-based. And it basically was all gimmick. And I like today you hear people talk about, we hear about the vaccines. Are they associated with autism? Let's do the scientific studies, right? And then we'd have facts that we can make educated debates about, as opposed to just casting aspersions at this point in time and letting the food industry dictate what facts get to be released, I think is un-American.
On CNN, they were talking about Trump's entrance to the UFC fight and a number of these people he's surrounding himself with, and they, in a very critical way, I think almost to demean them, reflected on how Trump has turned them into celebrities. And I thought, as opposed to Fauci, who had a bobblehead made after him. I mean, it's like, are you kidding me? Fauci, we were all supposed to lay down and worship as the single greatest person ever. Now you have concerns about some of these people surrounding the president being celebrity status individuals. It's just like most of what they say.
I think they're again just jealous because Trump isn't having to pay his celebrities.
Right? Yeah, yeah. There's that.
Having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to have them hang out with him.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts? I know you have to head off to D.C.
Yep, we're going there for 1 week, and then we have Thanksgiving break, but things are rolling, and it's very exciting times, and I was excited to see Will Sharf was appointed to be in a pretty key role in the Trump administration, and so that's good for us, because I was actually thinking, I was like, who do I know that he's appointed that I could, that's like a contact that I could kind of, talk to,
right,
and try to strategize with, and now at least I've got Stephen Miller and Will Sharf. So
yeah, I think a lot of people were happy to see that appointment. Of course, people in Missouri are a bit more familiar with him because of his run for attorney general than maybe people in a number of other states. But I was pleased when I saw that as well. Congressman Burleson, safe travels, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, take care. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right, a couple things for traffic. Christmas concert with the incredibly talented Chris Tomlin live at Evangel University's Spence Chapel, Wednesday, December 11th. You can register to win tickets for that at ksgf.com. And then, once again, we're 2 weeks into the Show Us Your Best Shot, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. Submit your hunting picks. Don't have to be from this season. They can be of season past. And one of your submission of the picks, that is your entry. And one of the entries will be drawn to win this personalized by Brad Pistole. He is a hunter, so he knows what the goods are. And he has once again this year crafted an incredible, worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars, prize pack with all sorts of stuff for hunters. We have a listing of all that at ksgf.com. And so, again, just go there and click on the Show Us Your Best Shot. Get yourself entered. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see rain throughout the day and into the evening hours with a high near 67. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 62, and on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 51.
MSNBC's Morning Joe, co-host Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, shocked viewers this morning, revealing they had traveled to Mar-a-Lago to meet with the second coming to Hitler, Donald Trump. The pair kicked off the show noting that they've heard from so many people, including political leaders, who are outright dismayed at President-elect Trump's cabinet nominations. They are scared, she claimed. And thus, well, first of all, how can they cannot, can they really be dismayed? Can they really be dismayed? Really? See, I don't believe it. I think this is more of the attempt to get you to understand how bad these picks are. So they feel that you don't understand the magnitude of how horrible Trump is, so they call him Hitler. You don't understand how bad these cabinet picks are, so they're just dismayed. They're not even outraged. They're dismayed. I just can't figure this out. Really? I mean, if that's the case, then frankly, you're an idiot. You really can't. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. Like, to give you an example, to put myself in the shoes of those who seemingly are dismayed and confused at some of these appointments. When I look at the people that Joe Biden made as picks, like, let's say, Pete Buttigieg, Department of Transportation, thought it was horrible, thought it was awful, but I got it. I understood it because he was a gay guy, and it was the ability, and that's the only reason that he got any prominence in the Democrat primary anyhow, and because there was so much attention paid on the first gay this, first, so because that's how the left is. Kamala Harris, because she was a woman of color. Of course, he said that he was going to choose a woman of color. And, I thought it was a bad pick. I thought she was ill-equipped, but I understood it. It didn't surprise me at all. I didn't find it surprising in the least. So this idea that people on the left and moderate Republicans, we just can't figure this out. If you really genuinely, one of two things is happening. They're either once again lying by their presentation, or they really are that stupid. And sometimes both. It could be stupid liars. So this morning, Mika noted that last Thursday we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast. We even said that we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with then President-elect himself. Why? Why would you want to do that? On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years. Well, just out of the gate, can I express how shocked I am they escaped? How did they get out of Mar-a-Lago alive? I mean, these are two people that have spent countless hours portraying Donald Trump as this horrible, evil individual. Why would he let them escape? Maybe because these internment camps haven't quite been set up yet. I mean, after all, he isn't president, but I mean, it's Mar-a-Lago. It's his private residence. If they came there, I suppose he could have just disappeared them. That's what dictators do. Just make them disappear. Of course, most people who are some of the most rabid critics of a dictator probably would not ask for a sit-down private interview with the dictator. Probably wouldn't do that. Charlemagne the God talking about, this is in the same vein here, the visit, Trump, Joe Biden. Joe Biden, frankly, looked happier than he has in a very long time. And I think a lot of people read into it that he's glad Trump won because it showed he was right. And I think probably there is a degree of that. But there's got to be some just relief there for him as a human being that was being put through what he was being put through. He knows that he has cognitive issues. He knows this. Or at the very least, even if he doesn't know it, he knows that people think that. And so if he doesn't know it, doesn't realize it, just the pressure of recognizing that any little misstep that you make, any flub verbally that you make, that is going to be used against you. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to win re-election. I have no doubt about that. But there must be some degree of relief. And that relief was all over his grinning face when he had Trump to the White House. This is Charlemagne on his morning show in New York talking about this.
I don't understand the White House visit. Now, granted, I'm glad it's a peaceful transition of power, but what happened to the threat of democracy talk? What happened to the fascist talk? By the way, I know I've said those things about Trump as well, but I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about his political opponents like President Biden. When they say it, it holds way more weight than me. I'm just trying to figure out, how do you go from he's an essential threat to democracy to welcome back? He was happy. He was happy. He was smiling. He was grinning. He was cheesing. Say cheese. He was saying cheesing. I'm just trying to figure out how. I understand President Biden believes in political norms, but damn.
That man happy as hell to leave. He don't care. He want to go. He up out of here. I was going to say it's definitely giving, inside House thing. I don't know, like it's the family is fighting inside, but then the moment that somebody from the outside come in, it's like, hold on, wait. So it's giving united front on a global stage is all I'm seeing. And that's just my opinion, y'all. I ain't gonna get too much into that. But
I'm gonna stop minding white people business. That's what I'm gonna stop.
There's a lot to unpack there. Now, the last brilliant commentator, well, this is about putting on a united front. Oh, yes. That's exactly what Democrats are known for when it comes to Donald Trump. The way that they put on a united front while trying to torpedo everything from renegotiating NAFTA. Look how many phone calls were illegally leaked by the deep state in order to sabotage relationships with world leaders, to make it near impossible for any world leader to have a one-on-one conversation with Donald Trump, for fear that it would be leaked. Look at how Democrats reacted with horror at the taking out of Soleimani of Iran. Scrambling to change laws so that Donald Trump would not have the ability to make much moves in the future. Or General Milley, who openly acknowledged that he went behind the back of the President of the United States to talk to his counterpart in one of our biggest enemies, China, to let them know he would give them a heads up if there was ever any sort of military operation to be planned against them. Yeah, that's what that was. That was a united front because they just didn't want the world to see that there was any sort of friction between Trump and the establishment in any way, shape, or form. Now, the obvious answer here, as Charlemagne and his crew are sitting around saying, I don't understand this. What happened to all the talk? The talk was a lie. See, this is the voice that needs to be on a program like that. It was a lie. Do you really not understand that? Charlemagne reflected in that exchange that, hey, listen, I said the same thing, but I don't carry the same weight as Joe Biden does. Well, you may carry more weight than Joe Biden does. But the question then would be, well, why were you telling people that? Even if it doesn't carry the same weight in your mind as it does when Joe Biden claims that Donald Trump would be the end of democracy as we know it, why were you claiming it? Is it because you believed it? And if so, that's why they were saying it. Because then you and so many of the other followers and social influencers and people in the Democrat Party or supporters of the Democrat Party would go and network market that around, do the bidding for them, and that is spread the word that Donald Trump is going to be a dictator if he gets elected president again. And if you didn't believe them, if you knew that it was just talk and rhetoric, and you're doing it as well, whatever reason you were doing it, the answer is to try to make sure he didn't get elected president. The combination here of total lack of any sense of morality. And I suppose this is what that looks like. When you're dealing with people who have no connection to morality whatsoever, does not bother them to lie at all, almost sociopathic. And that's one of the things about sociopaths is they don't have necessarily the ability to understand why people feel certain ways. They're disconnected from that. That's why they're able to hurt people, to lie to people. They have no empathy whatsoever. No emotional sort of tug of war there. And you got Charlemagne. Well, I was calling him Hitler too, but I don't understand why he. What about this don't you understand? Ultimately, they were lying. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Picked up your Bradford Light? Kansas Territory Brewing Company, Thanksgiving's going to be coming up. Might be a good time to have some of that on hand, maybe out of necessity, depending on your family, or maybe just for recreational purposes, everyone's together, and maybe they haven't had the opportunity to try Bradford Light, Kansas Territory Brewing Company, because until recently it wasn't available in this market. Now Macadoodle's price cutters. You can find it on the shelves there, learn more about their other offerings as well, KansasTerritoryBrewingCo.com. President-elect Donald Trump's transition team putting together a list of U.S. military officers who were involved in the Biden administration's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, according to a recent report. Well, good. Two people familiar with the plan told NBC News that Trump's transition team is reportedly in talks about whether to establish a commission to investigate the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, which left 13 American service members dead. The commission would reportedly also gather information about who is directly involved in the decision-making for the military and how the plan was carried out, among other things. They're taking it very seriously, one person with the plan explained to the outlet. NBC News reporting, officials working on the transition are considering creating the commission to investigate the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan, including gathering info about who was directly involved in the decision-making for the military, how it was carried out, whether the military leaders could be eligible for charges as serious as treason, the U.S. official and person with knowledge of the plan said. Now, this is good for a number of reasons. First, we must understand how this is going to be presented. And this is going to be presented as, well, this is his revenge tour. Well, if one is going to believe that, this isn't revenge because of anything they did to him. If this wants to be seen in the context of revenge, and I'm not really sure the left wants to present it that way, because it would be revenge for those who lost their lives, for the Americans that were betrayed. If, in fact, that is what occurred. And I think to the casual observer, that was the result, whether intended or not. So I don't know, frankly, that it would be that upsetting for a lot of Americans to see some people in the military pay a price for what they did to those 13 Americans. Now, that is, of course, in context. That's why you have these investigations to find out. Listen, war isn't perfect. Mistakes get made. Hindsight is 20/20. But sometimes the foresight is there, and it's deliberately ignored. The one thing that, without question, that should have happened was people losing their jobs. And this is why, ultimately, it's important that Donald Trump does this, and I believe does it very publicly, so that the rest of the world is sent a message that the United States is back on track in having high expectations for our military. Because what was demonstrated by not a single person, not only not being fired, but no one even disciplined, was a message to the world that no matter how much of a colossal screw-up the military had, that was an okay thing for the United States now. That we no longer have this attitude and approach that for some time had been believed to exist amongst enemies across the world, and that is not only do we have the biggest and most well-funded, newest technology available in order to be better killers than everyone else, but that our standards were just that. And that's part of the reason why the rest of the world feared us militarily, because they understood what our standards were. And that is, we're going to be the best, we're going to be the biggest, we're going to be the best at killing people and breaking your things if necessary and getting you to surrender should you get into some sort of battle with us. And what happened with Afghanistan was this demonstration that we don't really care what the results are. That there can be such a tremendous screw-up to the degree that we saw in Afghanistan, and not only will no one get fired, nobody even gets punished. In fact, everybody gets awarded. Oh, it's the greatest thing we've ever seen. I think it's important for Donald Trump to reset that and to send a message to the world, because that is what makes us safer, that we are back to having those standards. We are back to having those expectations. And that we will find out who is responsible, in what capacity, and they will be treated accordingly because the USA is back. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Do you watch Yellowstone?
No, I don't.
Any particular reason?
I just don't.
never-
I just
no.
never got into it.
We got into it, I think, after the second season had finished, because some of our best friends were really into it, and so they're like, "You should watch it." So we watched it. I really liked it a lot, and there were I mentioned this because of the commercial that just aired, and talking about ways to watch it, and I think we have Paramount Plus is where we watch it, and there were all of these discussions about Costner not being in this. He's still listed as a producer, but I don't even know all the reasons. I know that they've been talked about. Frankly, I just didn't spend a lot of time reading, trying to figure out, well, what's going on? What's the gossip? Why is it that he's, potentially not going to be in this season? And I thought to myself, well, if he's not, I just don't know that I would really enjoy it as much. Man, I'm telling you, the first couple episodes, it sucked me right back in.
Did it?
Yeah, I feel like so far the last season, it seems as if I remember thinking, well, yeah, I'm still enjoying it, but it just doesn't have that same sort of like edge of your seat by the end of every episode. But so far, they got me these first two episodes of the second half of the fifth season. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. I'm not a believer in completely ignoring the way that the media is trying to craft stories that are untrue or trying to frame them in a way that is inconsistent with the way they've framed stories in the past. But at the same time, if it's possible, what I try to do is emotionally disconnect from it because it can get you mad. And the one after another, the cabinet picks, I mean, they're just going to go through and find anything and everything that they can, or just any administration picked by Donald Trump. And they're gonna. This is just what they're gonna do. And one of the individuals is of focus right now that is being targeted is Pete Hegseth, and the media has tried to play him off as, well, he's just some weekend host on Fox News without noting his military background. And I think they found that didn't work. So now they're trying to go the sexual harassment route, which, again, is hysterical given that, like, Democrats, I thought this was how you – I thought this was how you crawled up the ladder. I'm sorry, let's just be honest, Kamala Harris not get her start in politics by being the side piece of a married politician? No one would even know who she was if it weren't for that. Bill Clinton paying off Paula Jones? You could go down the list. Or it was, I forget how far back, but at one point, what is it, one of the divisions within Congress, Office of Budget Management or something, had released a report, and in the report it noted that over a certain number of years, $17 million of hush money was paid out, settlement money, of individuals who had been, and this was tax dollar money, people who worked on Capitol Hill. Presumably, oftentimes at the hands of members of Congress, but it could have been other individuals, chiefs of staff. I mean, whomever the accused was in those numerous instances had to be important enough that it was felt necessary to pay hush money, taxpayer dollars to hush. That was $17 million at that point. Taxpayer dollars. And it was just sort of, well, it's just the way it works. Nothing to see here. Oh, but this guy, I don't know, he does Fox News weekends, and oh, well, he was accused once, and there was a payoff there. Oh, so now this matters again. I see. Hush money. Incidentally, according to the police reports, the accuser was almost charged because it was apparently so clear that this was, at the very least, a made-up situation, but perhaps even a set-up situation by witnesses and anyone and everyone involved. That's why there were never any sort of charges pressed for sexual harassment or sexual assault. And they almost pressed charges against her. Well, none of that really matters, right? Because he's not a Democrat. Only Democrats are allowed to do that sort of thing. Let's see, who was that guy that paid hush money after he knocked up his nanny? That, according to sources, she claimed that he, in one form or another, caused her to miscarriage, then paid her to keep her mouth shut. Oh, yeah. There was that guy that's married to Kamala Harris. You know, the guy that's redefining masculinity, or he was up until the election. The guy that other men aspired to be, according to so many Democrats in the media. These people. Weather in a moment. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. Latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see rain throughout the day and into the evening hours with a high near 67. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 62. And on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 51.
Streaming live, KSGF.com. We are also on YouTube. You can watch us there. And that gets archived also. So if you miss any of the program, you can go back and watch it. Springfield Wraps responsible for that. Thank you very much to them. Designer also of the studio. So as you see those striking visuals, then you can know that they are responsible for that. CNN reporting that Trump's team skips FBI background checks for some cabinet picks. Good. This, of course, is supposed to be interpreted as recklessness by Donald Trump, who doesn't care whether or not there are individual picks for his cabinet that are compromised, that have some sort of background that the FBI may flag, and perhaps he even knows that they do. And this is a way to avoid that being revealed, as opposed to what you and I understand, and that is that the FBI is a corrupt corrupt division of our government that has acted as the sword and shield of the Democrat Party, and that attempted to overthrow the previous Trump presidency. Why in the hell would this be an institution that Trump would then say, "Oh, okay, go ahead"? No, perhaps Trump 45, but not Trump 47. CNN reporting that President-elect Donald Trump's transition team bypassing traditional FBI background checks for at least some of the cabinet picks while using private companies to conduct vetting of potential candidates for administration jobs, people close to the transition planning say. Trump and his allies believe the FBI system is slow and plagued with issues that could stymie the president-elect's plan to quickly begin the work of implementing his agenda. People briefed on the plan said. Critics say the intrusive background checks sometimes turn up embarrassing info used to inflict political damage. Let's not forget they tried to overthrow his previous, including doctoring evidence. Went to a FISA court with doctored evidence so that they could spy on the Trump campaign. We could go down the list, the Hunter laptop. I mean, just, the constant displays of total and complete corruption and the willingness as an institution to carry out lawfare. And I say that because of how the FBI behaved once exposed. What you did not have was the FBI say, we're cleaning house. This is not acceptable. They doubled down, defended their actions. I mean, we might as well have the Iranians do the background checks, or the communist Chinese or Putin do the background checks. Now, incidentally, the FBI background check isn't anything that's mandatory. The president has final authority to pick whomever the president wants. And it would be fantastic if any president, incoming or current, could rely on the FBI as an institution to carry out these background checks to make sure that nothing pops up. But that's not the country we live in. It is a weaponized institution that has consistently demonstrated its willingness, its desire to target President Donald Trump, and then to somehow act as if it's weird or unsavory that Donald Trump doesn't want to use that institution to do these background checks. Are you kidding me? He'd have to be out of his mind. And I think most Americans probably agree with that. And I'll tell you another reason. Want to go down them? The FBI has found that as a corrupt institution, it is beneficial for them to have dirt on people within an administration. Because then they get to use that whenever they want something. I firmly believe that one of the reasons so many members of Congress, Republicans, gave the FBI, rewarded them with everything they wanted in terms of the brand new facility that's being built and all the, is because they know that the FBI has dirt on them. Now, whether that required sort of a visit of encouragement to vote in favor of it, or just the knowledge itself was enough to have certain members of Congress say, listen, whatever they want, they're getting. I ain't crossing them. Not going to happen. Many people scratch their head over why would the FBI keep quiet the corruption within the Biden administration? Because we would learn through whistleblowers that not only the FBI, but the IRS, these other divisions, had known for years prior to Biden being in the White House as president that there were very, very valid concerns that they had of corruption, foreign influence. Why would they sit on that? So they would have it. If you are corrupt, you realize that those are the keys to the kingdom, to have dirt on people in an administration that you could at any point threaten to reveal if you don't get what you want. Now, that isn't to say that that the FBI would not still illegally do these sorts of investigations. But why make it easier for them? Why actually hire them, in quotes, why actually commission them to do these background checks on people and make it easier for them, at least make them work for it, right? Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, Sarah Myers here, and the Pyramid Roofing Company with rain in the forecast and more coming our way. Some of you may experience some roof or gutter issues, especially today. If that is you, don't fret, because I have the name of a great roofing company, and that is the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, if you are experiencing any type of leaks or gutter backups, yellowing on your ceiling, go ahead and call Josh over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. He'll come out, he'll do a free roof inspection for you, and then he'll figure out the best solution for you and your roof. And sometimes that doesn't mean a whole new roof. Maybe that means new gutters or maybe a simple roof repair. Whatever your roofing needs, the Pyramid Roofing Company, they will get you all taken care of. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company out at your home, go ahead and give them a call today. You can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
A couple other things at KSGF.com of interest. Chris Tomlin is going to be live at Evangel University Spence Chapel Wednesday, December 11th. Your chance to win tickets for that performance at KSGF.com. And then once again, Brad Pistole, host of Save Money Radio, bringing back Show Us Your Best Shot. You go to KSGF.com, click on it, upload photos, hunting photos. They can be of previous seasons if you'd like, and that is your entry to win the incredible prize pack that has been put together once again by Brad Pistole, who's a hunter.
Have you seen some of the entries yet?
I have seen. Well, I haven't.
A lot of them are pretty impressive.
Yes, they are. And I should note that it doesn't. You don't have to have like the best, the best shot, if you will. That is your entry, and then someone will be chosen randomly from that. But it's a chance for you to showboat. And again, that can be from seasons past. I just haven't had a chance to really go through them, but I've done a quick glance and seen that there are quite a few there. Does that go through? I think that wraps up this week. I believe
I'm not exactly sure
I
the
think
end
this
date.
is the final week. Yeah. Okay. Russian legislator warning of World War III over Biden's decision to use these particular missiles in Ukraine. This is a Washington Examiner's story. You probably heard this sudden shift in the Biden administration's approach to Ukraine and how it is, what limitations we put on them in their fight with Russia. And it's dealing with long-range missiles and where we give the thumbs up for them to fire them. This is what some would call an escalation. Certainly, it appears to be interpreted that way by at least some in Russia, with a representative from the Russian State Duma warning that the United States is risking a provocation to World War III if it agrees to permit Ukraine to use weapons made in the U.S. that have the capabilities to strike Russia further inland. Maria Butina, a rep in the Duma, made the statement to Reuters after rumors circulated that Biden approved the use of Army tactical missiles system missiles. These missiles can travel 190 miles and can strike key Russian airfields and other crucial military targets. Previously, Biden had reportedly been against using those particular missiles due to concerns over escalation, which apparently doesn't appear to be a concern any longer. Butina warned that using them would be a significant error in judgment and that Russia's government could view it as an act of escalation, saying these guys, Biden administration, trying to escalate the situation to the maximum while they still have power and are still in office. While ominous about the possibility of the Biden administration using the missiles, Butina did express optimism that a Trump administration would reverse such a decision. However, she reiterated the warning that using the weapons could lead to World War III. Quote, I have a great hope that Trump will overcome this decision if he has been made, or if this has been made, because they are seriously risking the start of World War III. Now, Russia's going to say what Russia's going to say. And even if this in no way, shape, or form would get us, even in the minds of the Russians, closer to World War III, this is the sort of thing that they're going to say. Of course, I think it is a completely logical question to ask. Why now? Why has Biden made the decision to do something that in the past he said he would not do because it would escalate things? And Russia is saying, if you do this, it will escalate things. Why would he do this? I think that there's a number of possibilities. One, because this is the standard way that the elites fight wars, tit for tat. This entire engagement and the parameters that NATO and the Biden administration have crafted has been one of tit for tat. And this isn't an uncommon way for the elites, again, to fight wars, particularly people on the left. That they want to do just enough to show that they're doing something, but not enough to disproportionately hit back at the enemy so that the enemy says, whoa, wait a minute, okay, we don't want that anymore. They take a step, we take a step. They take a step, we take a step. They take a step, we take a step. Or in this case, Ukraine. Now, this way, ironically, common sense tells us leads to wars lasting longer and more people dying. And the reason it's ironic is because we're told that this way is done in order to limit casualties and to not escalate things. All it does, though, is drag the escalation out. It flattens the escalation curve, if you will. Let's not forget this began with this whole thing. The entire approach in the beginning was not using economic sanctions, but threatening to use economic sanctions. And even at that point, when the then Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked, well, why don't we just use the sanctions? And the answer was, well, because then the threat of the use of sanctions wouldn't be there any longer. And so, of course, we've escalated, then it was sanctions, and it's just one step after another, after another, after another. The poor decision-making here in terms of what we are green-lighting for Ukraine to do could occur, regardless of the timeline of a new presidency. There could be other reasons, frankly, if we're going to look at this in a more nefarious way of evaluating it. It is to make things more difficult for Donald Trump. It is fear that Donald Trump's belief that he can bring this to a conclusion is realistic, and that they don't want to give him that. Trump bragged about being able to do it, said that we'll start this process rolling before I even get sworn into office. And I believe there are a lot of people, including Putin and Zelensky, whether they like it or not, who also believe that that is a distinct possibility. So if you escalate things and make Putin feel, because right now it seems to be, it's this sort of stalemate, if you will. Well, if you then allow Zelensky to step it up, that diminishes the likelihood that Putin will want to come to the table, because then it will appear potentially as if Putin is coming to the table because Zelensky escalated things, and then that would be a sign of weakness. That would look as if, oh, well, now this is something we can't handle. This is an escalation, so now we're willing to come to the table, as opposed to being in this sort of stalemate position. Unfortunately, nothing surprises me with this administration any longer. And I think based off things that they've done in the past, again, whether it's just Biden being Biden or if it is in a political context, that they would make this thing bloodier and messier and more difficult to come up with a peaceful solution just to deny Donald Trump that victory. But all that being said, again, it was Robert Gates from the Obama administration who noted that when it comes to these sorts of decisions involving foreign policy, that Joe Biden is wrong every single time. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll have rain throughout the day and into the evening hours with a high near 67. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 45. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 62, and on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 51.
I wanted to play a story, which it really is, when it comes down to it, it's sad. And that is this increasingly hostile environment that the left creates towards anyone who disagrees with them. And there no society ever comes out ahead whenever you have one, or any political party, but if you have one major political party that encourages its supporters to do this to people with whom they disagree. That does not turn out well. And of course, the fact that it is the party that went around talking about unity, apparently their supporters don't listen. Now, they do to some degree, and I've noted that there's two, it depends on your definition of unity. There is unity like you saw during the Trump campaign, where standing next to one another, you had leaders of the Jewish community and leaders of the Muslim community coming together and supporting Donald Trump, literally on stage together. Or where even at that UFC fight, Trump entering, and then, of course, you're going to have some people cheer, and then you ultimately have everyone shouting USA, 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 because that was what unified. It wasn't Trump, Trump, Trump. It's USA, USA, USA. So, in an arena that size, you have people of all different sorts of backgrounds, probably overwhelmingly more conservative. But you're going to have some people there that are leftist. You're going to have some people that are LGBTQ. You're going to have people there that are, Jewish, that are Muslim, that are Christian, that are all walks of life. But everyone unifying under the banner of we're all Americans, USA. So that is unity where we are able to come together. It doesn't mean that you have to agree on everything. But when it comes down to it, hey, we all live in America. So that is one thing we do have in common. We can unify over that. Then there's the form of unity that the left talks about. And that is, well, everybody just complies. That there is one uniform way of thinking about things. There is one uniform way to react to certain situations. That is the sort of uniformity you see in North Korea. This is a story from the Fox affiliate in Los Angeles that is in this context of the different versions of unity.
Southern California LGBTQ community member and longtime Democratic supporter says she's now being ostracized for supporting and voting for Donald Trump.
Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf tonight speaking with the woman who's calling for peace in politics.
This is a story you'll see only on Fox 11.
Well, I definitely feel like I'm on an island alone.
Election day fallout for a self-described out and proud lesbian who voted for Donald Trump.
The queer people have turned their back on me, and I'm queer. So it's very painful.
Tanya Sivanowski worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016 and voted for Joe Biden in 2020.
I was absolutely the person that would say, if you're a Trump supporter, I don't want you in my life. And I can say that I regret that.
But after recent pro-Palestinian protests at college campuses, she says she started thinking differently about the Democratic Party. What was it?
Israel. I am a Jew, and what was happening on campuses is abhorrent. I think that they should have sent in the National Guard as soon as Jewish students were getting blocked from campuses.
So Tanya began sharing her newfound support for Trump on Instagram.
I think I had 50 unfollows right away.
Then after voting Republican in the election, she claims longtime friends and members of her LGBTQ basketball team started pushing her out.
Ever since I publicly said that I was voting for Trump, I am no longer welcome in the social spheres that they provide. So if there was a birthday party that was coming up that I was invited to, I'm now not allowed to attend. I think it is disgusting that someone can push me out of something that they liked me 2 weeks ago and now they don't just because I voted for someone.
I think it's going to be hard in general, overall, for the LGBTQ community to move forward.
Since the election, some LGBTQ members have expressed concerns about rights possibly being taken away during a second Trump term.
We're, ready to, fight for our rights.
They worry that things could get worse.
Sure. I want to say that I echo their pain. I understand their fear. I was a lesbian under his presidency before. My rights haven't changed.
Tanya now hopes the LGBTQ community will understand her beliefs while realizing her values haven't changed.
I'm not all of a sudden anti-gay now because I voted for Trump. I want to bring some humanity to this. And the only way that we will come together is if we actually just sit and have the hard talks.
Reporting in Studio City, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
Yeah, there's so much there, and it's so unfortunate. We see it, consistently, that those who portray themselves as being about diversity are the opposite. Anything but diverse. Simply because this particular individual has a diverse perspective on the presidential election. Longtime friends cut her off on the left. Done with her. She is of no use to them. She is of no value to them. And this isn't anything that's unusual. Increasingly, I hear it. I mentioned earlier in the show that I over the weekend, or over the past week, had a conversation with two parents who said that their son, because Trump won and they were Trump supporters, not going to talk to him anymore. Now that's the way that, for all the talk about Trump supporters being cult members, no, cult members cut their families off. Cult members are told that because your family members or your friends, they don't believe what is the truth as we see it, that means that they're toxic, they're poisonous. You need to cut them out of your life. That is the cult behavior. I would challenge anyone to disagree with that. The issue itself, here as a member of the LGBT community, saw the anti-Semitism, just horrified, and recognized that between the two candidates, Donald Trump was very opposed to that, while Kamala Harris was the opposite. I mean, she flat out refused to pick the governor of Pennsylvania as her running mate because he was Jewish. Did not want to upset the anti-Semitic wing of the Democrat Party. I mean, can you blame? I love how they expect this Jewish person to be supportive of that. In that particular story, they talked with some anti-Trump LGBTQ people, and they were just talking about how they were so concerned about their rights under Trump. And as she noted, yeah, I was a lesbian before when Trump was president, just fine. Like, what are you afraid of? What do you think is going to happen? I mean, really? What? I don't even know of any real allegations, as audacious as they may be, about Trump and what he's supposedly going to do to the LGBT community. I mean, there are some false claims out there. You had Democrats claiming that he's going to ban Muslims from the country. Debbie Ding Dong up there in Michigan, Congresswoman, saying that he was going to put her in an internment camp. You got Adam Schiff. I mean, all these lunatics saying, "Oh, he's going to turn the military on me." At least as audaciously ridiculous as those allegations are. They're actual allegations. I'm not even sure of any real allegations against Trump that regarding the LGBT community. I haven't heard that he's going to ban gay marriage or that he's going to put them in camp. I haven't heard anything. So I don't even know what it is that they're supposed to be afraid of. When you want to talk about creating fear for the sake of fear, for the sake of control, and then you add to it the layer that the reason that the member of the LGBT community who's the subject of this story was supporting Trump was because he was pro-Israel and, the other side more pro-Palestine. The area of that region where homosexuals are publicly executed, the insanely upside down, backwards world that the left creates by doing these mind jobs on people. And then when you have a person that they claim they're allies with who says, hey, wait a minute, actually, here's the truth over here. Not only do they not listen to him, that's the enemy, cut him off. You do not see conservatives do this. You do not see Republicans do this. You do not see Trump supporters doing this. The people that we're all told we're supposed to be afraid of. The people that we're told are mean-spirited and divisive. The people that we're told are intolerant. I mean, you think about the profound level of just what a job that the left has done to the minds of so many people. It really, truly is brainwashing. Well, I can tell you, for those of you who, like that woman, who have taken a stand on principle based in truth, and as she said, I feel like I'm on an island. I feel like I'm isolated. You're not. There are millions and millions and millions of Americans of different backgrounds, different races, different religious beliefs, different sexual orientations that are more than happy to have you as part of that community. They're called Trump supporters. You do have a home. It's just not where you told it was, where it was. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Regarding the apparent decision by Joe Biden to allow these escalatory missiles to be used by Zelensky against Russia. And I think that there's a number of reasons for it, from the most sadly benign. Well, I guess you could benefit of the doubt and be like, well, maybe he thinks that that'll end it. If, of course, that were the case, a lot of lives would have been saved if that decision had been made a couple years ago. Then there is the recognition by former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates of the Obama administration, who said as much as he liked Joe Biden, he was wrong on everything foreign policy, always has been. So this would be just another bad decision. Then you have the more potentially nefarious, and that is a belief that Donald Trump is going to, there's essentially this militaristic stalemate going on. No one is really, has done anything in a meaningful way that is of escalation. And given that stalemate position, that is the time in which you have the greatest likelihood both sides will come together and work something out. And potential fear from not just when I say Biden, it's not even him so much, but the people that surround him, who are the experts, that they will see it as Trump falling ass backwards into coming up with some sort of peace deal, and then he'll look good. So handing Zelensky the green light to escalate things then diminishes the likelihood that Putin will be willing to come to the table, because if it's after an escalation from Zelensky, then it'll look like a signal that he is afraid that they can't win, and that perhaps Zelensky can win, and it'll look like a surrender. Some of you have texted in an even more dark potential, and that is that, hey, this is done because what he's wanting to start World War III and then martial law, and I just don't. Frankly, I think that Joe Biden's at this point glad that he's out of this thing. I don't say anything's not possible with these people, but I think that at best it's the standard incompetence from Joe Biden and the people that surround him again, to at worst an attempt to make it more difficult for Donald Trump to bring about peace in a timely manner, because they just don't want him to have that political victory. And anything outside of those parameters, I'm not saying isn't possible, but I just get this sense that it's probably within that spectrum. That's just my thought on it. Wanted to play a couple bits. Let me play one bit of audio, and then let's see. Yeah, and then we have another break, a quick one, and then I'll see if I have additional time for audio. I thought that this was a really great argument made by, this was on MSNBC, and a fellow at the Hoover Institute, Stanford University, was on having a discussion with Jen Psaki, and Lanhee Chen is his name, and the discussion was about, from the Jen Psaki perspective, that, like, well, RFK Jr., he doesn't really have experience. These cabinet picks don't have experience.
Nominations before from presidents of both parties where there have been ethical and substantive issues. Let's not forget, we had a nominee for HHS secretary in this administration who had never dealt with health care before being nominated. So I think the notion that
I'm not here to defend. He was the attorney general for the state of California. This is a little bit of a different.
He had experience suing healthcare companies, but not anything to do with healthcare.
And of course, it just again highlights, and Republicans and conservatives are becoming much better at this, at just bullet pointing this stuff in order to demonstrate the total and complete hypocrisy. Any questions, concerns you have about needs to refinance, or maybe you're needing to purchase a new home, you need that home loan, I want a great homeloan.com. That's your go-to place. And don't wait until you've made the decision to do that. That should be part of your decision-making process. The characters and their team make themselves available to provide you as much info as possible. You know, it's the opposite way. A lot of times it's all about getting you hooked in, and they want, you know, they see it as an upside. People call who have already made the decision. That's not how the characters view it. They see themselves as a resource to provide you the information to make those decisions, and then if you do, they're there for you. iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. Molly Hemingway doing a fantastic job of illustrating why Matt Gaetz isn't a mind-boggling pick for Attorney General.
Right. Matt Gaetz was nominated for this position because we have a problem at the Department of Justice. For the last 8 years, they have run roughshod over rule of law in this country. They have prosecuted political opponents. They ran the Russia collusion hoax. And too many people in Washington, D.C. did not stand up against what was happening there. And many Americans are upset about it. Matt Gaetz is one of the most effective people at fighting that Russia collusion hoax and other information operations, whether it was the Brett Kavanaugh information operation, the Donald Trump Russia collusion hoax information operation, or the one that is referenced here, which is something that the FBI and Department of Justice, which hate Matt Gaetz, looked into and cleared him of any wrongdoing. The idea that this is about the issue is corruption. It's the Department of Justice has corruption, and people are sick and tired of people in Washington, D.C. doing nothing as these people tried to destroy the country and getting upset at someone who actually might root out the corruption there. We don't have a Department of Justice. We have a Department of Injustice, and that's why you get Matt Gaetz as a nominee.
So what Molly Hemingway did just there is what you're not supposed to do in Washington, D.C., and you lay out an argument based off of merit for somebody to get a job. That's not how you do things in D.C. Well, it is now. Glenn Beck's coming up next. Talk to you tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.